Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, rumored for early retirement following the Obi-Wan debacle. Man, I can imagine her face right now. No, Daddy Disney, no. So hey there. So today we are returning to that wonderful world of trash fires. And this is my favorite type of trash fire out there, the type that Kathleen Kennedy has been involved in. Now this makes sense too. We have talked about it under different wording. We have said they won't call it what it is, firing. They'll send her out with participation trophies. But despite that, this is still what would be coming. Why is that? Well, because you mismanage the big screen. You mismanage the small screen. What exactly do you think Big Daddy Disney is going to do besides get the belt after a while? Seriously, I'd love to be a fly on that wall with Bob Iger saying, "Run, Kathleen, run. The mouse is rabid again." As the article on this points out, and I have to agree with, many Star Wars fans have defended Kathleen Kennedy over the years. After all, her credits include Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., the Extraterrestrial, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, and more, so she's clearly good at her job. I don't know if I would say good at her job, but yes, she's at least got some type of resume. But ever since Disney took over the aforementioned sci-fi franchise, those same fans are beginning to see things in a different light. Especially after the dismal Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, her role with Lucasfilm has become pretty shaky. By deciding not to plan out the sequel trilogy in advance, we got a series of movies that lacked a clear definition or theme. Not to mention the behind-the-scenes drama or box office failure of Solo, A Star Wars Story, and the creative atmosphere that she's created, which has more directors declaring that working with Star Wars is more trouble than they care to deal with. And when it comes to money, and that's really the prime motivator when it comes to Disney about anything, I think it's really telling when you see the excitement about a number 7 here with The Force Awakens. Then you see Episode 8 roll in, and you notice that diminish. And by the time Episode 9 rolls around, well, you not only have a calamity on your hands, but if you actually compare the numbers from, say, 2019 here, when you look at that, 1,060,280,000 and change, you'll notice that in May 1999, that those numbers, they almost even up. So under the Disney umbrella, we have been reduced to the fact that, well, you can make as much money as a prequel film now, and that money is going to continue to fall off if you make more films. Looking at the earnings for this last iteration, I mean, right now we're at the very end of it, you'll notice how this breaks down. You have a domestic box office of $511,102,540, international box office of $549,178,111, for a worldwide box office of over $1 billion. Now, you needed to go in and clock $275 million for production, plus you needed to double that, so you've at least gotten that back here. But the margins are actually a lot thinner than one would think. See, we always gauge movies on popularity, how much they make outright, but that's not the take-home for companies. When you start getting into the take-home for it, best case scenario when it comes to a domestic box office is around a 65% take-home for Disney. Now, if you look at the current numbers that they have with that at $511,102,540, by 65%, you end up with $332,216,651. Seems to get a little lower there, doesn't it? And then when we get to the other portion, the international box office, it gets even worse. With international markets, you take home much less of that percentage. 45% is the norm, although that can vary depending on the movie. This currently overseas, if you take the whole total, $549,178,113 at 45% would be $247,130,150 and change. Now, when you get into that, you've still made money, but those margins, they're small, and especially when you're talking about opening up resorts, you're talking about carrying this forward poured into TV. You want more with it. And you really, if you break things down, have you even made your money back on the franchise yet? Another debacle that was mentioned here, and I don't think people really focus on enough, is what happened with Solo, a Star Wars story. If you look at the margins, even if we credit everything with it, this movie only made $213,767,512 domestically. Internationally, $179,383,835 for a worldwide total of less than $500 million. We have $393 million in change made. Now, of course, you add on another $55 million for home market performance, but this is a movie that cost $275 million to make. That advertising budget, it definitely cost you double that. So this is a Star Wars franchise that lost money when you credit everything. And when you get down into that percentage that we talked about, it gets drastic. And I'm talking drastic, dire stuff. Now, as the article said, too, this was in addition to the drama that came up with Solo. And we're not even talking about the other drama yet. Here we see Phil Lord and Chris Miller that were fired from the Han Solo movie. And if you think about the impact that that possibly had on the movie, should have been, could have been, but definitely wasn't. Kathleen Kennedy addressed this and many other people being let go at one time, too, by saying this with Rolling Stone. You start by talking to filmmakers who you think exhibit the sensibilities that you're looking for. And I would argue that the list is very strong. People who really do have the sensibilities about these kind of movies, and then the experience and the ability to handle how enormous a job these movies are. So we try to be as thoughtful as we possibly can about making those choices. I would also argue that sometimes people get involved in the normal development process and then they realized, oh my God, this is so much more than I ever imagined. So it's pretty common that when you're working on movies, you're not making choices and decisions that necessarily work out exactly the way you want from the get-go. Now, I don't know, but that strikes me a little bit funny considering we look at the names that have been removed. We had Colin T. sacked off of Rise of Skywalker very early in pre-production. Of course, Miller and Lord, as we mentioned, sagged from Solo after the producers didn't like their direction. We have D&D, who tell us that they love Star Wars. They've been motivated through childhood, but they can't even get attached to it. Gareth Edwards, who was kicked off of Rogue One, with much of the film being ghost directed by someone else. You look at all of those names and you think, what the heck? And then you compile the damage with people like Ruin Johnson, who divide audiences. Is that what Disney would want? If you were Disney, is that what you'd be asking for? And then, less than a month ago, you see Obi-Wan, something that people were actually looking forward to. And this was supposed to be the show that would ride in right after the Mandalorian, being delayed indefinitely. And the crew that was supposed to be attached to it, the crew that was supposed to be waiting around in the wings, according to what we heard, they're sent home. Remember, too, all of this is because of Kathleen Kennedy, according to places like Collider, who note that there are sources out there talking about this. Rumors have started to circulate that the Jedi Knights post-Revenge of the Sith exploits may be in danger despite positive news, like Drive's screenwriter penning the script, and The Mandalorian's Deborah Chow entering the director chair falling into place recently. However, it seems things have now come to a halt, with Collider's sources saying that it's all due to Kathleen Kennedy, who's said to be displeased with the scripts. There's no timetable out there for when this could resume either. Now, reportedly, all of this stuff has led to a specific outlook, with Disney reportedly thinking the time is right for a change in leadership at Lucasfilm. And frankly, this place here, myself as well, I don't feel like they have a problem thinking that. I think, maybe that's right. Now, they do mention her contract here set to expire in 2021. Crazy enough, that's next year. And it's unlikely unlikely that Disney will allow her to continue handling things the way she has been, and we wouldn't be surprised to see them push her out the door a bit early. I know that they won't let her handle anything. That's true. And they say, after all, there have been numerous reports handling this. They've been saying, hey, this thing, it's on the horizon. And that's the case. I mean, really, think about all of the sources that leaked other information, all of the sources that have told you things that you would never, ever hear, and all of that reports to unhappiness behind the scenes. If Disney understands that and they understand this loss here, you know what the answer is? They go out, they excise that, and, well, they go forward with something they spent a lot of money for. But anyhow, you tell me what you think about this stuff. Now, ending very briefly, thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating. You make this stuff possible. If you like this content, make sure that you're subbed to the channel, share these videos. But I just wanted to thank you for your time, because your time is important too. A lot of people don't do that. I don't like that at all. So anyway, just allow me to say in closing, appreciate you showing up. We do this stuff at least once a day, so check the channel out, and thank you again.